President Egils Levits, you served as the 10th president of Latvia from 2019 to 2023. And prior to that, you were also a member of the European Court of Justice from 2004 to 2019.
Yes.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me.
I appreciate it. And I'd like to start somewhere a little bit unusual. I'd like to start with your childhood. So,
okay. Okay.
So you spent the first 17 years of your life living in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Before your family was expelled for being a threat to the regime, allegedly,
Yes,
right?
yes.
What was it like growing up in the USSR? And what's something that people in Western Europe or people who were born after the Soviet Union fell maybe don't understand about the Soviet Union?
I think many people understand that, but I grew up in a repressive regime, and my family was against this regime, and my grandparents were sent to Siberia by Russians. Many members of the family were repressed by Russians, also by Germans on the father side. There was many family members killed. Also, it was as I was a child. The stories were normal for me, something normal. But of course, I grew up in an atmosphere that I am against this regime, and then Latvia should be free again.
How much of this did you understand as a child? Like, did you understand that you couldn't say everything that you were hearing at home? Did you have a sense that your family was somehow different? Like, what's it like as a child not fully understanding politics, but still living in this very non-democratic, authoritarian setting?
Yes, also the family plays an important role in shaping of the view to the world, and this view to the world, outside world, what was shaped by my family, was that Latvia was occupied, that Russians does not belong to Latvia here. And there was maybe a small hope, maybe in the future that would be a change. But of course, we see that the more or less the reality. And I saw that through the eyes of a young boy. Of course, it's different. But anyway, this feeling that the environment is not normal was there, of course, and very, very, so to say, realistically.
Fast forward to today, you are a big advocate for the Latvian language in a country where still, like many former Soviet republics, right, Russian is still used by many people. Why is that so important to you?
Yes, it's a continuation of the decolonization of Latvia, because during the 50 years of Soviet occupation, Soviet Russia tried to organize that Latvia will never become again independent and forever, for eternity, remain part of Russia. And therefore, they sent Russian people to Latvia in order to build more or less a majority. And I would say in the 1990s, it was the last moment historically when it was still possible to do it. Because then maybe 20 years later, there would be Latvians would be minority, and then the freedom would be not more possible.
So to you, it's a continuation of decolonization. It's a celebration also of the
yes,
Latvian.
of course, it's many. Of course, it's unusual to speak on colonization in Europe. But it was exactly the case also to send their own people to the conquered territory in order to settle there. And of course, we don't want that. And of course, a big part of the settlers goes back to Russia after the independence, but one part still is there. But they should understood, and the young generation understand this perfectly, that they are not living more in Russia. They are living in a different country with different language, different culture, and they should obtain also that, and also to keep, if they want, their own culture on language in the family. I can compare this feeling of this Russian settlers in Latvia. There are not many, but there are some similar situations. For example, the French people in Algeria, which settled there for 6, 7, 8 generations in the mid of the 19th century, and one day they waked up. Oh, we are not more in France. We are in an Arab country, and we should learn Arab. And many of them went back to France even after generations. And a very small part remained there, is integrated in Arab Algeria, and there is no more very much problems. And another maybe comparison is with the white people in South Africa. They thought, oh, it's our land, and there are also many black people too, but it's our land. And then they went up, waked up one day, and so we are a minority in a black country, and they should arrange somehow with that.
Let's talk about Russia's imperialist ambitions today. I've spoken to various representatives from other Baltic countries, and many of them feel that their countries are currently not being supported enough, and that the rest of the European community does not fully understand that the Baltic countries are Europe's first line of defense against Russia and its imperialist ambitions. Is that a sentiment that you share?
I see that we are integrated part of the European Union, and on political level, I see that the specific problems of the Baltic countries are recognized, but I would also say that they are not very specific to Baltics. It's a problem for the whole Europe, because Russia's imperialism is not confined with Baltics. Accordingly to the Russian ideology, they want to dominate the whole Europe. And therefore, of course, we see that we should have, so to say, a firm position to that. We don't want to be dominated by Russia, and I assume that even others, Germany and Finland, for example, or Romania or Italy, don't want also to do it. And therefore, we cannot change this imperialistic attitude in Russia, because it's for Russians to do it, but I don't see the signs for the moment in this direction. But we can keep our way of life, our freedom, if we are realistic enough. And I think we are more or less realistic. Yeah.
Do you think everyone is realistic, or do you see maybe a rift between states like the Baltics, but also Poland, Finland, Sweden, who view this threat very seriously, very imminently, very realistically, and maybe those countries who either are geographically further removed, Portugal, Spain, and also those countries like Austria or Switzerland who sort of want to find a neutral middle somewhere?
Yeah. Also, European Union is a union of solidarity, and of course we are also taking care on Italian problems, Spanish problems, Portuguese problems specific, and also vice versa. So more or less, I see that this common European interests prevails. But of course, there are some gradual differences, and therefore we have in the last years established so to say informal format of like-minded countries. Formally, it is NB8. This means 8 countries of Nordic and Baltic countries, Scandinavia and Baltics, because we see the outside world very very similar. Then, of course, we have very close relations with Poland, with Germany, also with United Kingdom. So, and now when the multilateralism on global level is eroding, I think the word of this decade in international relations and word and the notion should be like-mindedness.
I mean, you
So,
said that
yeah,
that the European Union is a union of solidarity.
yeah,
And then at the same time, you're seeing these informal alliances
yeah.
sort of split off. I don't want to say split off, but they're forming outside of, and they're excluding some members of the union. Does that not worry you?
No, not excluding. Also, we are trying to explain our how we are seeing the world to others, and someone should lead in different areas, and we are leading in defense area. It's I think yeah, somehow natural task this Nordic
Yeah.
Baltic countries, because we see more realistic, and we are trying to explain this to others, and they are also following. They have also more or less similar views. I would also stress that we are speaking on NATO as a defense alliance, but till now, only in the recent years, we have, so to say, more or less recognize that we have also a defense clause in European treaties, 42.7, where it set very like as Article 5 in NATO treaty, that if one member state of the European Union is attacked or on threat, then others should help this country. So, and it seems that this clause became more relevant now with the problems in NATO. So we are in the changing world, but I think we can manage these problems.
I want to ask about NATO. Do you think that under the Trump administration in practice right now, given how dependent Europe still is on the United States for its defense and security, in practice right now, if a Baltic ally were attacked and if Article 5 were invoked, do you think the United States would honor its commitment? Do you think that the United States would assist a Baltic ally?
Direct now, I would say. Accordingly to statements of American administration, yes, because President Trump is very satisfied that we are champions in reaching of the 5% goal, 5% of GDP, which should be spent for defense. So to say, we are the good guys in his eyes.
And you
Now,
believe him when he says that?
it's now today. Today is Wednesday. I'd say. So, but strategically, Europe should be independent, or quite independent in defense, because Europe, I'm speaking on European Union now, is in economic terms the same power of the same size as US and China. There are three big economic powers in the world: US, China, and Europe, European Union. So in military terms, we are lagging behind, but in the last year, especially since the change of the government in Germany, Europe has invested or decided to invest also a lot in defense. Also, we are going quite fast in this direction to fill the gap. And the third area is where we are still behind. It's technology, high technology. So the future power will depend much of of technology. Who controls the technology? Then this this power will be, so to say, also can control globally the world. And Europe is behind. And I see that we should also give much effort to invest much more in high technology, artificial intelligence, in order to be on the same level as the US and China. It's not possible very early now in the next 2-3 years, but maybe in 5-10 years it's quite possible.
I think the innovation spirit and culture in Europe is a whole other conversation. You know, we could fill a whole other conversation on that,
Yeah.
and it would be very, very useful. But I do want to ask you still, it's now year 4 of the war in Ukraine, and we're here at the Zen Guidance Symposium, where, of course, many of the discussions are very theoretical, right? Very, we talk about national security, we talk about security architecture, but many people, many voters are still asking, why should I care about Ukraine? Why should I care about the Baltics? You know, I'm having trouble paying my energy bill. I'm having trouble buying my groceries. We don't even have enough money ourselves. Why should we be spending taxpayer money to support other countries? And this is an argument that many populist parties win a lot of support with, right? What, in your opinion, is the simplest, clearest answer to that argument?
So you can spend on different things your money when the continent is safe. And the continent is safe if you are investing in defense. If you are, in German, you are saying Trittbrettfahrer. I don't know in English, maybe you can translate that.
To sort of just ride along with,
Yeah.
go along with the,
Of
follow
course,
along with it.
it is possible for a certain time, but not for a long time, because the others don't want such behavior. So the good life in Europe is only possible when we are trying to save our continent against imperialism and also dictatorship, also because we are also in a competition of political systems between democracy on one side and autocracy on the other side. And to be provincial is very, very dangerous. To see only till their own borders also, that is so to say, dangerous and also not sustainable.
Speaking of provincialism, what do you say to Austrians, Germans, Italians, the Spanish, who say, well, you know, maybe Russia has an interest in the Baltics, maybe Russia has an interest in Poland, but they're not going to come to Austria, they're not going to come to Germany?
Because it's not true. They should be more interested what really happens in Russia, what is the ideological stance in Russia, and Russian ideology see this Eurasian continent, and Europe is only a small annex of this. And the center is Moscow, and therefore the domination of the whole continent is a Russian long-term goal, not maybe next month and next year, but long-term goal. And it could only be stopped when we are strong enough. So, and that means the investment in defense means investment in peace, in order to keep the peace.
And maybe to be clear, this domination doesn't necessarily need to be military, right? It's more of a geopolitical sphere of influence that Russia
It
sees
could be
itself.
in different ways, of course. It could be in different ways, but anyway, I think the European Union, by the way, had in the last European Commission, there was a special commissioner for European way of life. This is a liberal democracy, freedom, human rights, and so on. And if we wanted to keep this, then of course we should also defend the system.
You mentioned a competition between political systems. that democracy is sort of competing against autocracy. And 3 years ago at Davos, you said, we're going through turbulent times for democracy. Now, I don't know if you were here this morning when Curtis Yarvin, the American...
Yes, I see.
So we had a debate in St. Gallen at the symposium where we had a far-right political blogger from America debate a political scientist from Europe. And I found it remarkable that abolishing democracy was even up for debate at a prestigious university in the middle of Europe.
Yeah.
We were debating whether democracy was good or bad, right? And I think that says a lot. What are your thoughts on how we could turn it around, how we can convince people, as somebody who grew up in autocracy, right? How can we convince people that democracy is the better system?
Yeah, you should have experience in a repressive system when you could be arrested arbitrarily, when you can be sent to Siberia and something, then you will value the system. Or killed in concentration camp, as in Germany by Nazis. So then you can value that. If you have not such experience, then it's rather abstract, but it is not abstract, it's realistic. And we have already a collapse of democracy 100 years ago, because immediately after the First World War, quite all European states were democratic states. And the next 5, 10, 15 years, in quite all European states, the democracy collapsed and the repressive regimes take over. And I think we are now discussing whether maybe dictatorships are better than democracy. And I think we should also learn something from the history. I know that it's very rare to learn from the history, but I would say never, a dictatorship is better as a democracy. And this debate at the morning shows that it is so. The representative of, so to say, a dictatorial regime could not consistently answer to very important questions. But I see, when you are looking more superficially to that, yeah, maybe a dictator could be also a good solution. So I would say more deep reflection on democracy, despite all the deficiencies of democracy, could lead to the answer no. I think there is no better answers to the human needs as democracies. And we should also admit that democracy is not perfect, but it's perfect for trying to improve the life. Also, in dictatorship, you cannot, so to say, as ordinary citizens, to try to pursue your ideas. I think it's rather good that we had such ideas, such discussion. The result is for me clear, but also that we are seriously discussing these problems is also a sign that, yeah, after 100 years, maybe some people are tired of democracy, and this is not good.
Do you think humanity is doomed to this cycle over and over again? Every 100 years we sort of forget how bad it was and we go back to the start again and say, why don't we try that again? And then we notice, oh, that was a terrible idea. And now we remember.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But of course, terrible experience can have some learning effects after that. But prudent people are learning from the failures of others. They should not experience such catastrophic events.
Let's hope so. I have one final question for you before we're out of time, which is, Matter of Fact tries to be a very nonpartisan publication and tries to look at multiple angles of an issue. And so I want to ask you, what would you say the left in Europe gets wrong about the war in Ukraine? And what does the right in Europe get wrong about the war in Ukraine?
There is no one left, I would say. The left is also, I would say, left from social democrats more. So to say, not social democrats and liberals and liberal conservatives, also a broad center. Yeah, and you are speaking on the left.
So you're talking now about the far left that is further
Far
left
left,
from the Social
yes.
Democrats. Yeah.
There are also two parts of the far left. The Greens. The Greens were, I think, they understood. I am not. It's difficult to say whether they are far left or left, but anyway, the Greens, the European Greens, because they are very principled, the most principled party, I would say. They're committed to certain principles. They see clearly who is the aggressor and who is the victim. They are doing so in completely other situations, but I think it's very important moral, so to say, prudence, yeah, to distinguish between aggressor and victim. For example, by rape. Some people are saying that women is to blame for that, and this is the same as some people are saying Ukraine is to blame for a Russian attack. And I think the Greens was very clear in this. There was some left, European left, so in Germany especially, they took, because they're pro-Russian oriented, also the other position. So there is no one sense. On the right, I would say the rather conservative rights, also traditional conservative right-wing European People's Parties, like the Christian Democrats, they have also a very clear position and the right position. And then there is this populistic right, because they are against the democratic system as such. And Ukraine is a democratic country, and Russia is an autocratic country, and Russia is supporting this far-right populist movements. And therefore, of course, the far-right populist movements are also supporting Russia in this way. Because Russia is supporting the far-right populist movements in Europe, because they are against democracy. And this is against, we are coming back to the competition between democracy and autocracy. Russia will support such political movements in democratic countries which are against democracy. And therefore, it's relatively easy to explain why the far right and also the far left are against meet there, and they are, so to say, they are very difficult situation from the moral point of view, also to support aggressor, not the victim. But they can live, obviously, with that.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, President Levits. I'm sure I could have gone on longer, but unfortunately we're out of time and we both have to get to our next session. Really appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.